Chanel Tomasi.
Ms. Tomasi, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good. Please tell the court where you are currently employed.
The Horry County Police Department.
How long have you been with Horry County?
2016, sir.
Okay. And how long have you been in law enforcement altogether?
As a Class 1, sir?
Yes.
2016, sir.
Okay. And what is your job specifically with the county police?
I'm the detective with the Crime Scene Investigations Unit.
Okay. Would you explain a little bit about what exactly that is?
I get called out to major crimes, typically homicides. I come out to the scene and I process the scene, documentation, photography, collection, preservation of evidence, sir.
You work the crime scene.
Yes.
In the course of your employment, how many crime scenes do you think you process?
As a case agent, as the primary,
Yes.
probably maybe 100. That's not
Okay.
pretty definitively, but maybe.
That's a good number there.
Yeah, it's a good number.
Okay. And on September 9th of 2023, was you called out to a scene at Camp Swamp Road?
Yes, sir.
And did you prepare a report for that case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 19. This is, you'll take a look at that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is my case report.
Okay. And I'm going to show you, as part of that case report, I'm going to let you hold on to that in case you need to refer to it, because we're going to talk about some things in it.
Yes,
But
sir.
as part of that case report, and really any of the case reports you have, do you make a detailed drawing or diagram of the sketch of the scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 36. You will take a look at this and tell me if this is yours.
Yes, sir. I drew that.
Okay. And when you, in this particular sketch, so this is a representation. This is showing us exactly length, distances where these vehicles were located when you arrived on the scene.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
When I processed the scene, sir. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you right here, you've drawn this line from one bumper to the other bumper. What's the purpose in that?
That was to show the relation of the proximity between the vehicles.
Okay. And how far, what is the distance between these two vehicles?
Approximately 75.
75 feet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you went out, when you got called out to Camp Swamp Road, who notifies you about these things?
I was advised by Sergeant Stevenson. He is the sergeant of the Crime Scene Investigation Unit.
And what did he advise you that you were responding out to? Do you have any idea what you were going to that night?
Yes, sir, I did.
Afternoon, I guess I should say.
It was late evening, I'd say, from my recollection. Yes, sir. He gave me a phone call. I was on call. Typically, Crime Scene is on call from Monday 6 a.m. to the following Monday at 6 a.m. I'm sorry, sir.
That's okay. You keep going. I got to take notes.
Gave me a call on my on-call phone, said that I would need to respond to a death investigation in reference to a deceased male. Still on scene, and advised that it was in reference to a possible road rage incident that occurred.
Okay. And do you recall about what time you arrived on the scene?
May I refer to my notes?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I gave you the report.
Uh, 1910, which would be 7:10 p.m.
Okay. And when you got out at the scene that night, was the scene already been secured?
Yes, sir. I remember several marked patrol units, yellow and colored crime scene tape. It appeared that Camp Swamp Road was shut down with yellow secured crime scene tape on both sides, as well as a portion of Highway 9, sir.
Okay. And if you will, just walk the judge through what you did when you arrived on the scene. And by that I mean, we're going to get into some specifics, but just generally, what are your observations? What do you begin to do?
Okay. Yes, sir. I arrived on scene. I observed several marked patrol vehicles throughout. I also observed several vehicles in the median of Highway 9. There were some parked on the side of Highway 9. I recall seeing yellow colored crime scene tape. There was a trailer attached to a white truck. Mr. Boyd and Mr. Williams were sitting on the rear of that. There was also a white and color SUV to the side of the trailer. I believe those were witnesses. There was a black and color truck further up on Camp Swamp. I recall the...
You give me all this general description. I've seen pictures of that already.
Yes, sir.
I know exactly what you're talking about thus far. Give me what you did specifically, not just a general observation.
Okay.
I've seen photos.
Yes, sir. Went ahead and just kind of looked at the scene, started taking overalls, jotting down some notes in my field notes to just prepare myself for how I wanted to go ahead and document the scene with photography and just taking a general look for any types of evidence that was going to be recovered, sir. Or collected, correction.
Okay. And I'd like to take you now to page 3 of your report and the first 2 full paragraphs on that page.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What were your initial observations about Mr. Spivey's truck?
Mr. Spivey's truck was parked on the paved portion of the northbound lane of Camp Swamp Road. I observed both the driver front and passenger front door to be in the open position. The rear glass over the cab appeared to be broken. Shattered glass. Bullet holes to the driver front windshield. Several bullet holes to the rear tailgate in the exterior cab portion to include that window portion.
Okay. And did you then, with the doors, do you remember if the doors were all open at that point or they were closed or?
No, sir. The driver front and passenger front door were open.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've got marked here as Defendant's Exhibit 39B through F. You can go ahead and put them on the screen there, Kathy. All right, I'm going to first ask you there about 39. Go ahead, Mary Kathy. 39B, we put that up, that's the first one. Now, you explain what's in this photograph?
Yes, sir. It would be what appears to be an extended magazine on the driver rear seat. Shattered glass.
Let me give you that point if you need it.
You want me to point to it?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. This right here appears to be an extended magazine. Driver rear seat. Shattered glass. You've got some items here on the floor. This right here appears to be a spent shell casing.
Okay. And when you say an extended magazine, that just means that what?
It's a larger capacity magazine.
Okay. All right, Mary Catherine, let's go to the next photograph. And this is just another photograph of that same magazine you were talking about.
Yes, sir. This would be what I would consider a close-up shot of that. Yes,
Can
sir.
you tell from looking at this photograph if it is fully loaded?
I can't tell you that it's fully loaded, but I can see that there is what appears to be a live round.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the next one. What is the purpose of this photograph?
It is just to have, it's a general overall photograph from the passenger front side to give the document through photography his positioning in the vehicle, sir.
And the next, Mary Catherine. And is this the same thing?
Yes, sir. It's a close-up shot of it.
Okay, let's go to the last one, Mary Catherine. What are we seeing in this photograph?
Right here is a firearm. This is on the passenger rear floor, to my knowledge. Yes, yes. Here it appears that the slide is in the lock position, in lock back.
What does that tell you?
It could tell, it could be many things. It could be either the gun has been fired to the point of where there's no more live rounds being fed into it, so it locks back, or you also have the option of pulling it and locking it back in that position, sir.
So either somebody's pulled it and locked it back, or it's been shot out, and that's where the position it stays
Those
in.
would be the options, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Can I sit down?
Yes, you can. And after photographing Mr. Spivey's vehicle, You didn't process it there at the scene. What did you do with that vehicle?
With the vehicle, we went ahead and took overalls of the outside, and I took overalls of the interior from the doorways. And the vehicle was, all doors were closed and secured with red and color evidence tape.
What's your purpose in doing that?
That's just to show that when it arrives at its next destination, that it hasn't been tampered with, the doors haven't been opened.
Okay. And Mr. Spivey, was he left in the vehicle when it was sealed?
Yes, he was.
Why did that occur?
I was advised by Sergeant Stevenson of the weather, that the storm was coming, and he advised that we were going to tow the vehicle with the victim in tow.
Why would that make a difference with the weather coming?
Possibly for evidence.
Okay, meaning that, expand on that a little further. Normally, I guess what I'm asking you is, you left the body, Mr. Spivey, in the vehicle because of weather. If weather was coming, he was obviously in the vehicle, so what's the purpose of why did that matter?
In order to process the victim, I would have to remove him from the vehicle.
And there would be a chance that the evidence would be lost if a storm broke out and it rained?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Spivey's vehicle, was it then towed from the scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and where was it taken?
He was towed to the ML Brown building.
Okay. And did you accompany the vehicle to the ML Brown building, or did you go there later? Tell us a little bit.
Later on, it was another officer escorted that vehicle in the tow truck to the
Okay.
ML Brown building. It was not me, sir.
So the vehicle was escorted back to the police station? It
Yes,
was
sir.
never outside of police custody, really?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir.
Okay. And when you found the vehicle back at Impound, was it still sealed with your red evidence tape?
Yes, sir.
Meaning that no one had entered or tampered with the vehicle since you had sealed it?
It did not appear as so.
Okay. I'd like you to go to that second paragraph on page 3 of your report, if you will. If you look at it, did you recover a shell casing on the roadway outside of Mr. Spivey's vehicle?
Yes, sir, I did.
Would you read what it was?
It was one spent casing marked Hornaday 45 Auto from the roadway near the driver's side front tire of the black Chevrolet on Camp Swamp Road.
Okay. Let's pull up, Mary Catherine, Defense Exhibit 38. Let's see here. 39, I apologize, Mary Catherine. Give me one moment, Judge. Got my picture mixed up. All right, let's take a look at 39H there, Mary Catherine. Is this the shell casing you photographed outside of Mr. Spivey's car?
Yes, sir.
All right, go to the next one, Mary Catherine. And is that the location where you found it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Mary Catherine, let's go to 39L. What is this photograph of?
This is an overall photography from Highway 9 looking on the Camp Swamp Road outside of the crime scene.
Okay, and next, Mary Catherine? What is this of?
This would be the intersection of Highway 9 and Camp Swamp Road outside of the initial crime scene.
Okay. Why take this photograph?
I always show an overall of the area and what it looks like.
And what does it look like here?
Various vegetation, thick.
And this is Highway 9 headed away from the beach, and this is the turn on the Camp Swamp here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That grown vegetation that they've got there, all over this empty lot,
Mm-hmm.
could it possibly block someone's vision who's coming down Camp Swamp Road as to what's on Camp Swamp Road? Sorry, coming down Highway 9 as to what is on Camp Swamp Road?
I could see that it could.
Okay. Once you got back to the impound lot, did you then begin to process Mr. Spivey's vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to direct you to page 6 and 7 of your report. If you will, let's go through this last paragraph. You don't necessarily have to read it word for word. I know
Okay.
that the judge didn't want you to do that. But my question is, reading through this paragraph, will you tell me the items that you found in the vehicle?
Spent casing, Hornady 45 auto, driver front seat, an unopened box of Winchester live rounds, one black and color P magazine, extended magazine from the rear seat, which contained 23 live rounds, marked Blazer 45 auto. Another spent casing marked Hornady 45 auto from the rear driver's side floor. Another spent casing marked Hornady 45 from the rear driver's side floor. One clear plastic Ziploc bag from the back rest seat compartment of driver's rear side containing 26 blue and color capsule pills. Another spent casing Hornady 45 auto rear driver's side floor. One black and color Springfield Army XDM 45 firearm from rear passenger floor, slide appear locked back, containing one black and color 13 round magazine which was empty. One white and color cell phone from the passenger front floor. And one spent casing marked Hornady 45 auto from the front passenger seat. Another spent casing Hornady 45 auto from the front cup holder. Another spent casing of Hornady 45 auto open console in front of the cup holder. One live round marked Blazer 45 open console in front of cup holder. Another spent casing marked Hornady 45 auto from open console in front of cup holder. Silver and color Springfield Army 45 ACP magazine from inside the center console, which contained 13 live rounds marked Blazer 45 auto. One black and color empty medication bottle marked Crown Town Cannabis from inside center console. One spent casing marked Hornady 45 auto from the rear center cup holder. And one live round marked Hornady 45 auto from the top glove compartment.
Okay. So there's 9 spent shell casings that were recovered from inside the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
There are 2 live rounds
Yes, sir.
that were recovered from inside the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
There's an extended magazine in the back seat with how many rounds again?
Containing 23 live rounds.
And there is another magazine that was found, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Where was that one found again?
Inside the center console.
And that also contained live rounds?
Contained 13 live rounds.
Okay. The live rounds that you found inside the vehicle, do you remember where you found them at?
Yes, sir.
Where were they?
Let me go back and I want to make sure that I tell you exactly the correct spot for these live ones. First live round was from the open console in front of the cup holder.
Is this it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the other live round, Hornady 45 auto from the top of the glove compartment.
And that's not a great photo, but that is the photo of that live round on top of the glove compartment. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? When you say on top of the glove compartment, that is you're finding it on the dash by the windshield, is that right? Or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think it was like an opening. I think there might have been an opening right there.
Okay. Where you could put stuff in.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I believe so.
If somebody, Mr. Spivey, had been riding down the highway with a fully loaded weapon and was racking it multiple times, would that account for these live rounds being found where they were?
That could be indicative of that. However, they could also have been there for some time.
It's one possibility.
It is a possibility, yes.
Okay. All right, I'm going to show you what has been marked. Nick, I will bring up Exhibit 40. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 40A, B, G, H, I, L, and M. Let's go through those, McCabe. Now, this is a photograph, not at the scene, but where?
This is at the ML Brown Building impound lot.
All right, and what are we, obviously we're looking at the back of Mr. Spivey's truck, but what are you photographing here? What are you documenting?
Just giving you a general idea of the bullet holes.
Okay. Let's go to the next one there, Kathy. And this one?
This will be the exterior of the cab. It's just giving you a roundabout of the glass that's shattered. You can see some holes, and you can see even some into the front windshield, sir.
Okay. Next. And this is same picture of the back of the truck, but now you've got tape on there. What are you marking out?
That is scale tape, sir. That's just to give a measurement for each hole. And as you can see on all the scale tape, they are all individually marked. I individually marked them with letters.
So you can identify which hole is
Which hole is what? Yes, sir.
Okay. Zoom out some, Rick. I'm going to ask you about this here, and we'll go to the next picture because you got a better one of it.
Yes, sir.
What are we looking at here?
Appears to be a bullet hole defect, mark G. It does appear that the metal appears to be coming in an outward motion.
What does that tell you?
I am not an expert, however, it would lead me to believe that it was a bullet coming out of the tailgate.
Okay. All right, Mary Catherine, let's go next. And this photograph here is the same. This is the same magazine that we looked at twice. It's in the back of the car.
Yes, sir.
It's moved from the other photographs. It's moved its position a little bit to become parallel with this back seat. You got any reason to account for that?
I would believe that that would be due to the toe.
The tail. Okay. That's what I would think too. All right, Mary Catherine, go ahead. And on to the next. That's the same. Okay. All right, I'm going to go through and show you what's been marked as exhibits. Then it's exhibits 41. I'm sorry, this is 40. 40 A, B, C, D, and F. Okay, and we're not going to show these on the screen, but I'm going to show them to you. If you will tell the judge what they are and hand them up to him.
Yes, sir. This would be my photo. This would be an overall of an injury. It appears to be the gunshot wound to the right armpit, closer to the back. So
And the next one.
the next one would appear to be a grazed wound to the left cheek area of Mr. Spivey. Next photo would be an overall view of the front of him. Next photo would be bullet injury to the right armpit towards the back.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you what's been marked here as Defendant's Exhibit 40K. What are we looking at?
That would be a clear, that was the clear bag containing the blue pills.
Okay. And those were found where?
They were in the passenger rear seat backrest. There was an opening that folded out in the seat.
They could be closed up and concealed or folded out to reveal the compartment. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? Okay. The blue pills.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
ask you about those. What did you do with those blue pills?
They were placed into a vest kit.
Okay. What is a best kit?
That's for that's the packaging it must go in order for it to be analyzed by the drug lab.
When you say analyzed by the drug lab, does Roadway County have a drug analysis lab?
They do.
Okay. And you submitted those pills for testing,
Yes, sir.
and did you determine with the drug lab? Was the drug lab able to determine what the contents of those pills were? You can scroll down very quickly. This is Defendant's Exhibit 45. What is this?
That would appear to be the paperwork from the drug lab.
Okay, and this is the results of their testing.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you to pronounce that, okay?
Yeah, because I'm not going to be able to.
Okay. All right, I'm going to show you now what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 41. Let's go through the first photograph there, right now. Yep. And this is a photo of what?
That would be the item 30, the handgun that was recovered from the black and Chevy.
Slide still locked back,
Yes,
just as
sir.
you found it.
Just as I found it, yes, sir.
All right, let's go to the next. What is this?
That would be the extended magazine from the back seat of the black truck,
Okay.
Chevrolet.
Go ahead.
That would still be the extended magazine with all the rounds removed and then itemized.
Those are all live rounds in there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is,
That would be item 28, which was as the clear bag, and then all the contents that were in it. Those are the blue and colored capsules.
all right, go ahead, Mary Catherine. This is the same, just out of the bag.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. What is this?
That is a 45 ACP 13 round magazine, empty.
And where was that found?
Passenger rear floor.
And was it inside anything?
That was inside of the weapon.
The weapon that we just saw a second
Yes,
ago
sir.
that you recovered from Mr. Spivey?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it is empty?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead. Is that just another photograph of that empty magazine?
Yes, that's just to show the capacity of that magazine.
Okay, and what is the capacity of it?
That one says 13.
Okay, go ahead. What is this one?
Magazine from the center console.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Catherine. And that magazine appears what?
It appears full.
Okay, fully loaded.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that the same one which you emptied the clip?
Yes, sir. That's the magazine, and then the rounds that were removed and itemized.
Okay. Is there another one, Rick? I think that might be it. Yeah, that was it. Did you also tow Mr. Boyd's truck back to the impound lot?
I did not tow Mr. Boyd's truck, but yes, it was
Well,
towed.
not you. I know you didn't
Yeah.
do it, but was it? I should have.
Yes, sir, it was. It was
Was
towed.
it towed back to the impound lot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you did the same thing with Mr. Boyd's truck that you did with Mr. Spivey's truck?
Yes, sir.
All right. And were there any shell casings that you were able to recover from inside of Mr. Boyd's car?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you tell us how many there were? You can refer back to your report if you need to.
My recollection is 22. Let me double check my chain just to make sure we're good on that number. You're asking from inside his truck, correct? Not the scene?
From inside of the white Dodge Ram, that's correct.
$22, sir.
You said 22 rounds?
Yes, sir. From inside.
And I'm going to take you back out to the scene.
Okay.
And if you need to refer back to your report, you can. Were there any casings that you recovered outside of the Dodge Ram?
Sir, can you repeat that, please?
Did you recover any bullets, casings, fragments, whatever it may be, from outside of that dot, the white dot ring?
Yes, sir, I do believe I did. There was one projectile located on the roadway between the black truck and the white truck on Camp Swamp.
Okay. So we've got 22 spent casings inside of Mr. Boyd's vehicle, and there's one casing that is outside of Mr. Boyd's vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And would you have done this, did you do the same with Mr. Boyd's vehicle that you did with Mr. Spivey's back at the impound? You would have photographed it, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Marquez, you don't need to display these, but I'm going to hand them up to her. Are these the photographs? This is Defendant's Exhibit 38A through D.
Yes, sir. This is
And
my photo.
that is Mr. Boyd's
Mr. Boyd's vehicle.
Okay. Same here.
Yes, sir.
And what is that depicting?
That is the exterior front windshield for the bullet holes.
Okay. And this is a photograph of?
The center console of Mr. Boyd's truck.
All right.
That is an overall view of the driver front area.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good.
And this is?
That is the passenger front seat, and I can see that there is a magazine which appears to have live rounds in it.
Okay. I'm going to go back to this photograph, which is Defendant's 38A. Right here in the corner, is this what is this?
That is the red and color evidence seal tape?
And that's the same thing you would have put on Mr. Spivey's vehicle, and we can see that in some of the other photographs.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the evidence tape, do you seal it with your name and your initials?
I do initials and a date.
Okay. Officer Tomasi, at any point in time, do you know Weldon Boyd or Bradley Williams at all?
No, sir.
At any point in time, did you add, subtract, move, manipulate any of the evidence that you saw?
No, sir.
And once I think we talked earlier about how the rain was coming, and therefore a decision was made, not by you, but by someone else, that Mr. Spivey's remains should stay in the vehicle so as not to disturb any potential evidence, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you got the car back to the impound, you obviously removed Mr. Spivey from the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
All right, and those were some of the photographs we didn't show on the TV, but we showed to the court, correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, and once you had processed him, what then happened with Mr. Spivey's remains?
The coroner took possession of him.
Okay. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Moss?
Very briefly, do you recall about what time the coroners took possession of Mr. Spivey's remains?
Let me refer to my notes and see if I have it in there. I don't have an exact time of when he took possession. I know that we started processing that vehicle at 23:38 hours, so that would be about 11:38 at night. So I would have to. It would be a guess, maybe 30-45 minutes later. I'm not sure.
Well, the coroner's facility is right in the same compound, not.
It's outside the perimeter of the impound lot, sir. But yes, it's within walking distance.
Very well. And that's the facility where they have storage facilities, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Tinsley?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning, Mr. Tinsley.
We met, last week?
Yes, sir, we did.
Time flies whether you're having fun or not, so.
Yeah, it does fly.
You know, I've had the unfortunate experience of being involved in a lot of catastrophic cases over the years, and so, but they're mostly rare cases. And we see in the bad cases where you have not the same sort of crime scene analysis and collection that you have, but we have, and the Highway Patrol has made.
Yes, sir.
And oftentimes, they'll do the same sort of thing. They tape up the vehicles, correct?
From my
See that?
knowledge, I'm not sure. I would assume they do. I've never been to one of theirs.
And the reason you tape up the vehicle is to make sure that no one can access it,
That is correct.
so that the evidence is preserved.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that tape, and I don't think Mr. Martin asked you about it, and I'm sure the judge knows, that tape's very sensitive. You can't open that door, you can't peel it off to make sure nobody's been in it, right?
That is correct, sir.
And you also have sheets of plastic when you need more than just a piece of tape, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Can you pull up the truck that they marked? So this is, I forget what the defense number was. Yes, it doesn't matter. This is the same photo you identified as being at the ML Brown building, right?
Yes, sir.
And the policy of Horry County is that when a vehicle is towed, it is to be videoed from the scene where it is taken until it gets to the impound lot,
To
correct?
my knowledge, yes, sir.
And
When
in
it's
this
escorted.
case, that was Officer Vescovi, the act like a victim note guy, who was supposed to be doing that, right?
Yes, sir.
You've seen that video, haven't you?
Yes, sir, I have.
Yeah. And you know that the truck was not videoed the whole way to ML Brown, don't you?
I did not know that.
All right, well, I'm going to draw your attention to the window.
Yes, sir.
The back window, the slide window and the window behind the driver's side, those are gone, right?
They do appear to be so, yes, especially the middle one. Yes, sir.
And there is no plastic or tape over that, is there?
No, sir.
And so the compartment where you found the drugs is immediately inside that window that's open, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we don't know who put those drugs there, do we?
No, sir.
And now, Detective Jones was the detective that was over this investigation, right?
Yes, sir.
And Detective Jones got a search warrant, and judges seen them there in evidence, that allowed the phones and the vehicles to be taken, correct?
Yes, sir.
Collected.
Yes, sir.
That's the way it's normally done, right?
Typically, yes, sir.
And you don't typically allow the suspects, and that's what the front of your report says, right? Suspects. Charles Weldon Boyd and Bradley Kenneth Williams. You don't typically allow the suspects to take items from a vehicle when you're investigating some incident like this, do you?
No, sir, not to my knowledge, no.
That's not the
normally.
policy, is it?
I'm not sure what the policy, but that's not normally what I see, sir.
And in this case, in fact, what happened was is that Detective Jones told you to get Bradley Williams' bag out of the truck so he could give it to Bradley Williams, didn't he?
Yes, sir. He told me that he needed his ID.
And the bag.
Yes, sir, and he took the bag.
And you didn't inventory what was in the bag, did
I
you?
took an overall photograph of it.
Did not check the compartments.
No,
Talking
sir.
about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
sir.
we don't know what was in the bag, do we?
I took an overall look at it, yes, sir. I cannot definitively tell you what is in that bag, sir.
That's right. And you don't know what was in the compartments, correct?
No, sir.
Now, part of the search warrant, and the judge has those, it allowed for the collection of DNA. And you collected some DNA, correct?
I collected DNA from the door handles of the vehicle.
That's right. What would that tell us? Who touched the door handle?
Yes, sir, touch DNA.
Okay. The warrant allowed you to collect any DNA, any and all,
Yes, sir.
in any way related to the suspect or the victims, correct?
Yes, sir.
And these pills were significant enough to take photographs of, and tell the judge who told you where to look to find the pills.
It would either have been Sergeant Stevenson or Detective Alan Jones.
In fact, you testified in your deposition it was Alan Jones that told you to look in there, didn't
I believe it was, yes, sir.
Yeah. And so, which there was no DNA collected from that bag, right?
No, sir.
So we don't know who touched it or who may have put it in there. We don't know any of that, right?
No, sir.
Now, Mr. Martin asked about the storm.
Yes, sir.
You might have heard some thunder somewhere, but you didn't see any storm, did you?
I saw dark clouds and some thunder. That's it, sir.
There was no point in time that night, from the time you got there at 7:10, about,
Yes, sir.
until you left at what time?
Let me double check to see when I cleared. I'd say round about maybe 10:30. I'm not definitive on that.
About what time do you get to ML Brown?
I want to say some maybe 10:30-ish.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Spivey's truck unloaded from the rollback?
Did I watch it get unloaded, sir?
Mm-hmm.
No, sir.
Okay. You document in your report that equipment was used, and we've talked about this. What actually happened is the rollback would pull forward and slam on brakes and pull back and slam on brakes to get it off. Right?
Yes, sir.
Is that the way it's normally done to preserve evidence?
Normally, I'm not there when it's towed there, sir.
You've never seen a body towed in a vehicle, have you?
No, sir, I've not.
I think you said 100, but that's not the policy of this agency, is it, to do it that way?
No, sir.
And there are reasons for that have to do with evidence preservation, whether it be gunshot residue or other things. That's just not the way it's done, is there?
It's in my 6 years of being in crime scene, sir, I've never done it that way.
And we marked earlier with Detective Solite or something, text thread, and the people in CSI, the crime scene investigation, you also have a text chain that you all can communicate with, right?
Yes, sir.
And Horry County has canopies or tarps, canopies or tents, I'm sorry,
Yes, sir.
if you need them, right?
Yes, sir, we do.
And you could have texted somebody and brought a tarp out there or a tent out there or whatever you needed to process this scene there in place, correct?
We do have the equipment for such, yes, sir.
But your boss is the one that told you that somebody else had made the decision to tow the body in the car.
He told me we're towing it with him in it if weather's coming.
That's right. Now, when you arrived, and your training it actually is to look for and collect the evidence.
Yes, sir.
And you do that in a very methodical way, correct?
The best way I can, yes, sir.
And when you got to this scene, you had already talked to Alan Jones on the way, who told you that he gave you some information as you were on the way, and I'll tell you what page. And you may see where it is in your report. Give me 1 second. I think it's on page 2 of 26 of your report.
Yes, sir.
Conferred with Detective Jones prior to my arrival, and Detective Jones told you that Mr. Spivey had exited his vehicle and began firing towards the suspects, right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't know what firing meant in terms of actively firing and continuing to shoot. You just knew there was gunfire.
Yes, sir.
So you were particularly interested in looking for the shell casings from it, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you didn't find all the shell casings in either vehicle, did you?
I wouldn't say I didn't find all of them. I found what I found.
That's right. But you realize that additional shell casings were later found?
Yes, in Mr. Spivey's vehicle.
Okay. And so you found what you found. And it's no reflection on you. I mean, it is what it is. Mistakes happen, right?
Yes, sir.
But just because you found a certain number, that does not mean that's how many there were, does it?
No, sir, it does not.
But in terms of shell casings in the roadway, and we saw the picture, you looked not only in the roadway, you looked on either side of the roadway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you did a very methodical search in the grass to make sure nothing had been knocked out of the roadway.
Yes, sir.
You didn't find any, did you?
No, I did not, sir.
And once they loaded Mr. Spivey's vehicle and they moved his vehicle, you looked in that area, right?
Yes, sir.
And again, you didn't find it.
No, sir, I did not.
The only shell casing that you found was almost under the front tire on the driver's side. And you don't have any idea whether that fell out, was knocked out, bounced out while the gun was being fired in the car, or fired outside. You don't know how it got there, do you?
No, sir, I cannot confirm how it got there, no. That's just the location that I located it in.
But you most definitely didn't find any shell casings at the back of Mr. Spivey's vehicle.
No, sir, I did not.
You didn't find any shell casings in the, I'm going to call it the oncoming lane, the opposite lane of travel in which these two trucks were in.
No, sir, I did not.
There were no bullet holes in Mr. Spivey's driver door, correct?
No, there was not.
And you tried to count the number of bullet holes, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
We didn't see the pictures, but you put dials into the bullet holes in the back of the truck.
Trajectory rods?
That's right. And the trajectory of those dials indicated that those bullets were being fired into the cab of that truck, right?
It would appear so, yes, sir.
Even though you couldn't determine how many there were, you did count 20?
Do my lettering? Yes.
I once could add 100 and 250, so I'm not going to hold you to it, but I believe it's 20.
Yes, sir.
And those are 20 bullet holes that we can count that are directed into the cab of this vehicle.
Yes, sir, that is what I observed.
There could have been others that passed through the glass.
Yes, sir, it is
We
possible.
know that there was at least one that indicated that it hit in the ground between the two trucks.
What would you be referring to, sir?
There's a mark in the road where you took a picture of
May I see that photo? Okay, yes,
it's
sir.
I asked you about this before,
Yes, sir.
and so the court understands this diagram, this sketch that you did, what you tried to do was measure these distances back to the same baseline.
Yes,
correct?
to the fog line, yes,
Fog
sir.
line. And so it's almost as simple as taking 199,
Mm-hmm.
the distance from the front tire of Mr. Spivey's truck to the fog line, and 104, distance from the front tire of Mr. Boyd's truck to the fog line, to figure out the distance between those two front tires, right?
Yes, sir.
199 minus 104,
Mm-hmm. 95.
95 feet.
Math is
And
not
that's about the distance from, let's just assume that the length from the driver's seat to the front of the tire is about the same on both vehicles. That would be about the distance from driver's seat to driver's seat too, fair? In that range, 95 feet.
within.
It didn't rain that night, did it?
No, it did not, sir.
You all didn't take any breaks while you were doing your work at the scene on Camp Swamp because of any inclement weather, did you?
No, sir, we did not.
You don't wear a body cam, do you?
No, sir, crime scene does not.
But you do know that the policy requires the body cams to be on while the suspects are still at the crime scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you pull it up there? No, no. The one in the dark. Turn off the one that uses cameras. Here we go. This is the one we played yesterday. This is the new thing. know, Judge, there was a point in time where I looked over this morning because I thought Morgan was doing such a good job on running the computer that I realized it wasn't Morgan.
No, Mary Catherine's the brains of it.
I see that now.
I've identified her the first day.
This is my fault. I didn't tell him to have this one. All right, pause it. Can you zoom it in? Pause it.
I can turn them up.
Should I ask Officer Spivey asking Higgs and some others how to mute the camera, but that's not the policy either, is it?
No, sir, it's not.
And it certainly, you wouldn't be turning off body cameras and muting the dash camera or the recording system in the cars when the suspects are still there at the scene. And that's you actually photographing them, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
That's okay. You agree with me that the scope of the warrant that was obtained by Alan Jones for Mr. Boyd's vehicle included phones, right?
It did say cell phones, yes, sir.
And it said, it actually says cell phones and other devices, right?
Let me refer to the warrant, sir.
Yeah, I'm trying. Do you know what mine says?
So I think that exhibit, is exhibit 5, is that, no, here's the white Dodge Ram, sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Phones, etc.
Phones, et cetera, is what it says.
And in the defendant's photographs, I think that one's up here, Your Honor. I don't.
How they took them off from you? They put stuff up here to come and get you. I have no idea who's taking this crap.
Well, there was a tablet in Weldon Boyd's truck, wasn't there?
There did appear to be one on the dash, yes, sir.
That's right. And you had to move it out of the way in order to collect some of the spent shell casings from his vehicle, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And in Defendant's Exhibit 38C, that's the tablet
Yes, sir, that is.
Prominently featured there in the front of Mr. Boyd's vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Detective Jones
told you he didn't need the tablet, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He did tell me he did not need it. That was after I informed him that the warrant did not cover the tablet.
You had a specific conversation with him.
Yes, sir, I did. I said, we have a tablet here. It's not on the warrant. We would need it amended.
And he told you no.
He said he didn't want it.
And so that's what happened, right?
Yes, sir, that is what
And
happened.
the tablet was not collected.
It was not collected, sir.
It was given back to Mr. Boyd,
It was left in the vehicle.
which just a couple of days later is given back to him, right?
I'm not sure when they released it to him.
That's
It's up. Moving on.
yes, sir. The reason that you told Detective Jones that the warrant needed to be amended was because you realized that that tablet could contain information that could be useful in the investigation, right?
I'm not sure what it contained, but it could contain. It is, the possibility is there, yes, sir.
That's right. That's my point. That's why you all are doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
And then as you figure out more information, listen to calls, for instance, or
That's not the scope of my investigation.
No, I understand. The scope of your investigation is to collect everything so that when the people who are actually investigating have the ability to go and then look at these things, right?
That is correct, sir.
But as with respect to some of the things that we've talked about, that didn't happen in this case, did it?
It would appear so.
Thank you, Detective Tomasi. I don't have any more questions for you.
Anything else? Oh,
Just a
Mark?
few, Your Honor. Detective Tomasi, are you aware of any evidence that was destroyed or compromised by the towing of this vehicle, either vehicle?
No, sir.
Okay. Are vehicles from crime scenes like that routinely towed to the police impound lot all the time
Yes, sir, vehicles are.
to be processed?
Yes, sir.
All right. In your report, Mr. Tinsley made a quick point about that you've written and used the word suspects.
Yes, sir.
You were not the lead detective on the case.
No, I was not, sir.
Suspects is a word that you use. It's not a comment on guilt or innocence or
Court understands that.
okay. All right. Well, there's a lot of people watching. I just want to make sure everybody else understands it,
Yeah,
Judge.
you can give me credit, don't worry about that.
Yes, sir. As to DNA, he touched on DNA from the plastic bags that had the drug in it.
Yes, sir.
Are bags that drugs are found in police work? I was a prosecutor here. I've been a defense attorney now, so I'm asking you this question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Do they routinely send bags that they find drugs in on the side of the road or in a car away for DNA testing?
Predominantly not, unless they request it.
Okay. And I want to ask you about Bradley Williams' bag. You examined, before you gave it to Bradley Williams.
Yes, sir. I opened it up, took some overalls, and just took a general look in it.
Okay. And so if there was anything that was of evidentiary value in there, you'd have had a picture of it, or you'd have collected that before you gave the bag back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there was not in your
There
opinion?
was nothing that I observed, no, sir.
Okay. And going back to the scene, there's been some prior testimony from Officer Higgs, and I think you were sitting in here and heard it, about 19 vehicles at least that drove through that crime scene. Why is that problematic at a scene like this?
You've got cross-contamination, evidence destruction. Sometimes tires can pick up casings.
And so you only found that one shell casing outside Mr. Spivey's car, but that doesn't mean that there weren't more there, that you didn't locate, correct?
That is a possibility due to the scene not
Right.
being locked down.
Fair enough. There's been some talk about the weather, and I don't know exactly the significance of it to this hearing, but I do want to address it. It didn't rain at the impound lot that night when you were processing the vehicles, did it?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit A. This is out. This has already been played for the court. This is out in the evidence. I want you, this is out at the scene. I want you, Judge, everybody, including Mr. Tinsley, to pay attention to that window right there. Go ahead, Mary Catherine. She's going to speed this up
Was it at
so we don't waste time.
the stoplight, or were they coming through the stoplight, or was it just kind of like, all right, when he did that,
He might go,
What's happening?
he got like,
It will be raindrops.
I'm sorry, stop, Mary Catherine.
because he's got this big trailer.
It appears to be what?
Raindrops.
Raindrops, it rained. No further questions.
All right, you may sit down. Or stand down, I'm sorry.
I'm good to go, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to go. All right, we're due for a break. Need to get some more coffee. Let's take about 15 minutes. 48 minutes after the hour. Everybody ready to go?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Call a witness.
Mr. Charles Weldon Boyd.
Come forward and be sworn.
I solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give the court in this case to be the truth, and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. No, just your name.
Charles Weldon Boyd.
Mr. Boyd, it's been a long time coming for you to tell your story, right?
I'm ready.
Now, you know about the allegations in this lawsuit, don't you?
I'm aware.
Did you ever have an occasion to meet or speak with Scott Spivey before September 9th, 2023?
I have not.
Prior to that day, when you did all those crazy things, pointed the gun at you, did you know who he was?
I did not.
To your knowledge, did your ex-fiancee Gordon ever met or spoke with Mr. Scott Spivey?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay. And you've asked that question and you looked, right?
I have.
You don't know any relationship at all?
I do not.
All right. When is the first time that you heard the name Scott Spivey?
After the shooting.
Let me ask you just straight up bluntly, did you intend to harm Scott Spivey when you were father?
No.
Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to pay attention to that judge and only that judge. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. But the only two people in this courtroom that matter are you and that judge.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to prompt you with some questions, but I want you to talk directly to him and tune all this other nonsense out.
Yes, sir.
It's noise, okay? You talk to that judge. I want you to tell us a little bit about your background. What city do you live in?
Now I live in North Myrtle Beach.
All right, but you grew up somewhere else, right? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Hartsville, South Carolina.
Okay. Now you were adopted, weren't you?
I was.
You remember how old? Well, you probably don't remember. How old were you when you were adopted?
I think I was around 8 months old.
Okay. And do you know where you were living when you were adopted?
I think Columbia.
Okay.
I was born in Columbia.
Most of us don't remember what was happening when you were 8 months old.
Yeah.
And your parents were with you here today. They adopted you, and they adopted your sister, right?
They did.
At the same time. And you grew up with them in Hartsville, right?
Correct.
Now, were your parents strict on you?
Yeah. They were good parents. They raised us the way I hope I can raise my son, and I learned a lot from them, and I think they're pretty proud of how they did, and I think they did a pretty good job.
Well, let me talk to you specifically about maybe some of your daddy's raising style. I don't have sons, okay? But tell me how your daddy raised you.
My father is a very direct, blunt man, and I think I was raised the same way. It was, you fall down and get up. I don't want to hear you whine about it. It happens. It's going to happen again. Do the right thing. If you feel like something needs to be done, you do it. Don't be lazy, and put your family first.
Now, you try to live that way, right? You get up when you fall down, you get up and do tough, right?
Yeah.
Let me go into your school background a little bit. Where'd you go to school?
Earliest I can remember is elementary school, which would have been Carolina Elementary in Hartsville. And then after that, I hated school. I wasn't built for it. So I started homeschooling.
And who taught you in homeschool?
My mama.
Okay.
I don't think either of us were built for homeschooling, but we tried. And I ultimately I wanted to go to work. I wanted to get out and do stuff. So I got my GED.
So you quit high school, right?
Homeschooling, yeah, I got my GED.
Okay. And then what'd you do?
Went to Florence Darlington Tech for a while for automotive technology.
Is that where you met Mr. Bradley Williams?
That's where I met Mr. Bradley Williams.
Okay. How long did you stay at Florence Darlington Tech?
Maybe 2 semesters, maybe 3, and then I withdrew.
Okay. And why'd you withdraw?
I wanted to go to work. I just wanted to do something different, so I joined the Army National Guard and went and got a job.
Where was your guard unit?
We were stationed in Mullins, South Carolina.
So you joined, you had to go to basic training, right?
Yes, I did. I think
You remember when that was?
I think, don't kill me on the dates, I don't know, but I think maybe December of 2009 or the very beginning of 2010, somewhere in there.
Well, let me ask you in basic training, were they any more cognitive than your father was when he told you to fell down and stand up and toughen up?
No, I missed my dad real bad at basic training. They were hard on you. Not as hard as they were 10 years before, and then those guys say they were harder 10 years before that, but they were hard on you.
Okay. How long did you serve in the military?
Just under 6 years.
You got activated, didn't you?
Did.
Now, some of that time was classified, is that right?
To my understanding, I had to get a security clearance, and I had to sign a bunch of paperwork with that we weren't supposed to discuss things, and I did not read the paperwork.
Well, tell us what you can tell us.
Got activated to go to Kuwait. What we did there was we did armed escorts. We did that for the duration of the deployment, and we took various people between different points and just got them there safe, picked them back up, got them back safe, and that was the extent of our mission. I had a secret clearance, and that sounds fancy, but that's like second from the bottom, so it's not.
Can you tell me your MOS?
11 Charlie and 11 Bravo.
Now, when you got deployed, were you still at the same rank as when you started?
Yes, deployment. I didn't get my promotion on deployment. My promotion came after deployment. I deployed as a specialist E4 and came back as a specialist E4.
Okay. You were promoted in the Guard, right?
Yeah, several times. I started as a PFC, then went to specialist, and then got promoted to sergeant.
Okay. Now, let me ask you specifically, because it shows up in some places, and it might come up here. Are you a combat veteran?
No. I deployed to a combat area. They designated it a combat area, and I received combat pay. There's an extra pay if you're in a hazardous duty area. It's hazardous duty, combat pay is the same thing. But that's why it may show up as combat veteran. It's because I was in an area they designated as a high-risk area that entitles you to that hazardous duty pay.
When you were in the Guard, deployed, did you see combat?
I did not.
But you were in a combat area?
As they designated it, I don't think it was all that crazy, but.
Let me ask you, were you ever trained as a sharpshooter in the military?
No, I was 11 Charlie originally, so I was a mortarman, and I was just a rifleman on that mortarman platoon. And then I also eventually became the machine gunner for my platoon, and that's the complete opposite of a sharpshooter.
Okay. Now, during the time you were in the military, did you ever engage in receiving or returning active fire with another person?
No, sir.
Okay. That never happened?
No, sir.
Did you ever, while you were in the military, experience any other traumatic event?
One on the deployment.
What happened?
We were coming up on a roundabout. They use roundabouts everywhere over there. And that day we were escorting a bus, and I was the driver of the lead vehicle. My other guy was in the passenger seat. Saw a bunch of fire smoke, tons of people, and
You know where the fire supposed to come from initially?
not at that point. Obviously, senses get heightened. Started to consider radioing in because the roundabout was blocked, and I decided, okay, well, we're probably going to have to go in the sand and just skip the roundabout altogether. So we don't stop unless we have no other choice. Got to the roundabout, and it was a sedan that was on fire with people inside. They were still alive, but there was tons of people around them, and nobody was doing anything, and I didn't understand that, and that infuriated me. There was a girl in the back, but later on I learned the reason nobody did anything, because I guess in that culture they decided that was Allah's will, so they just don't.
You watched that family burn to death.
Yes, sir.
And there was no weapons involved in that?
No.
No gunfire involved in that?
No, I don't know how the car was on fire, but they just couldn't get out of it.
Now, you mentioned your rank when you got out of the Guard. You said sergeant, is that right?
Sergeant E5, yes, sir.
How long did it take you to make sergeant E5 from the time you started the Guard?
Maybe around between 2 and 2.5 years.
When you left the Guard, why did you leave?
I felt like I had kind of fulfilled what I had set out to do with that venture, and I wanted to do other things. I've always wanted to work for myself and get out there and get started, so I started down that road, and I ended up finding an opportunity with a popular deli in Charleston, East Bay Deli. They had franchise opportunities for our area where I lived. Went to my dad, we talked about it, we went in that together and got started.
Well, I want to get into that. Let me stop you for a minute.
Yes, sir.
First, you had to get out of the Guard, right?
Yeah, I had to get out the Guard. So we had signed up and gotten everything going. They told us this was going to be a really long process. So we're like, okay, well, I've only got, I can't remember the exact months, but I had like 6 to 4 months left on my contract. So I figured we were safe to go ahead and get started. We invested money, we got started, signed up, and then everything started happening fast. And it required in-person training in Charleston for long stints of time. It was going to interfere with the Guard schedule. I went to my upper command. We tried to figure out how we were going to address this because I was financially invested. It was considered a hardship situation at that point in the military. Requested a hardship discharge. That had been considered, but they were just trying to figure out how to make this work. And then I had to go. And we were on the phone. They knew where I was, and they knew I was missing drills, but they knew why, and everyone was aware we were trying to work this situation out. Ultimately, what they decided was that they would issue me a general under honorable conditions discharge. And they told me after 2 years, you can go to Columbia and go before the board, and then have that moved up to just a straight honorable.
You never did that, did you?
No, I mean, that wasn't really important to me. It was still an honorable form of discharge.
So let's back up just a little bit. When you came back from deployment and you were going to be out in the Guard, did you have to go through any evaluations?
Yeah, especially, well, when you got back from deployment, you had to go through extensive evaluations. You go to what's called Camp Shelby, Mississippi, and they process you out. You spend several weeks there. You're in country, but you're not home yet. You have to do all kinds of evaluations, you have to sit through things, stand in lines, the normal routine. It takes forever.
So you did go through this,
I did.
and it was a normal routine.
Yes.
They didn't hold on to you because of any concerns?
No, I left on time.
Left on time. Now, did you have any buddies that didn't get to leave on time?
Yeah, no, yeah, people who had, red flags had to stay, and some would stay a couple weeks longer, some would stay a little bit longer than that.
So you weren't a red flag?
No, I left on the bus with everybody else.
Okay. Let's get back to this business. That was in North Myrtle Beach, right? The business that you were on.
The business, yes, sir.
And they were requiring you to be in Charleston for specific times, right?
Correct.
They weren't flexible, right?
We had leases that we had to go and review and then get those signed, and once those were signed, we were paying on an empty building. It just all had to go.
All right. And so you did open that restaurant, right?
I did open the restaurant, yes, sir.
Not far from where you live, is that fair?
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the shopping center where you were?
I've always called it the Bilo Shopping Center. Don't remember the name of it.
That's where the Vilo was.
Yeah, it's the Bilo.
So you ran that East Bay Deli location in North Myrtle Beach, right?
I did, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, ultimately, that failed, didn't it?
Horribly, yes. That was hard. I didn't know what I was doing. You step into something like that and you tell yourself you can do it and you know what you're doing, and I had no experience and walked into it. The only time I'd been in a restaurant prior to owning one was to eat, so it was a beating.
Evidently, they didn't train you well enough down in Charleston.
We felt the same way.
You've heard it alleged that while you were running the East Bay Deli, that you chased someone. Is that right?
I believe on one of the phone calls I referenced when I chased somebody that had stolen off the salad bar at the restaurant.
Okay. I'm going to show you an excerpt of a Google map where your restaurant was. First, I'm going to show you the car. Street map.
Okay.
I want you to explain to the judge what that refers to when you quote unquote chase somebody when you're in East Bay Deli.
Had a guy.
Use these photos it'll help you, but the only person I care about seeing them is the judge. These other lawyers can look at them if they want.
Okay, so I had a guy who came in and he smelled of alcohol. Customers came, started complaining, and he looked like an inch. He had a big duffel bag, and he walked over to our salad bar and unzipped his duffel bag and just started scooping food into his duffel bag. Then he went over there to the fountain machine, and by this time I'm walking out, and he made a fountain drink and then put the fountain drink in his duffel bag with no lid, and then just started walking out to his car, and he could barely walk. Fountain drink pouring everywhere, so I follow him out. He goes and gets in the car, and I'm standing in the door of the restaurant. He starts to pull out, and he turns wide, almost hits another car in the parking lot, backs up again, goes. I go out, I'm calling 911, and it's been...
Is it because he's coming drunk or because he was stealing?
Because he was driving drunk and stealing. I mean, it was just a lot of no-nos. But I called 911, and it's been 10 years. I don't remember all the details. But I got in my truck, and may I stand there and point this for you? Okay. So this was where my restaurant was, Your Honor. And he was parked over here, and I was parked right here. So I walked around, and he just sat there for a while. I don't know if he didn't know where he wanted to go, but I got in my truck and I backed up here and I pulled over, and he had already pulled out. So then I follow him here. We both go here, and we both stop there. And I'm talking to 911, and I'm telling them where we are. Then we both go to here, and we both stop there at the stop sign, still talking to 911. Then he turns right, and then he turns in here. I turn in behind him. He turns in and he parks right in front of the laundromat. I on the phone 911. Again, I don't remember what I was saying to them because it's been 10 years. But I do remember I pulled up and just pulled right here. I guess he's parked here and I'm just parked there. And I told 911 I'm parked behind him, how far away are the officers? She said, sir, you can't do that. You might get in trouble for that. Just don't do that. So I backed up. And then from there, I don't really remember what occurred. I believe I sat there for a while and then I ended up actually just leaving. I don't remember the rest of it, and it's been 10 years. But that, we never went over 15, 16 miles an hour because it was just these side streets at every stop sign. And I referred to that as a chase. And I said that in one of my phone calls, referring back to when I chased that guy.
You ever had another incident, you quote unquote chase somebody that you're aware of?
Not that I can recall, no sir.
Do you remember a lot of hullabaloo about you being in Charleston, calling 911 and chasing? That never happened, did it?
No, that we spent weeks trying to figure out what that was even about.
Because of the name East Bay Deli.
It's because East Bay Deli is out of Charleston, and that's where all that came from.
So ultimately, you had no encounter with that gentleman who stole food from your salad bar while drunk, right?
No sir.
Did you ever approach him?
No sir. I think I approached him in the restaurant.
Okay.
And asked him what he was doing, and he just kind of was fussy, and I think I helped him to the door, but then when he went outside, that's when I stood at the door, and he went towards his car, if I remember correctly. It's been 10 years.
I understand.
I just want to make that
So that's
incident explained.
that restaurant failed.
Yes.
Did you start a business after?
As this one was failing, I kind of knew I had to jump ship. I had to figure something out. So I took what little I had left and then got my dad to help some, just because I didn't have much left at that point from this thing.
How old were you?
Oh Lord, maybe 20. Don't quote me on this. Maybe 26, 27. 26 and 28. Bought a guy out of his position in another restaurant, put everything I had into that, and jumped ship, and then closed the deli maybe 3 or 4 months later.
So that restaurant you bought another guy out was Bowie's, right?
Bowie's, yes
And
sir.
it was Bowie's when you bought it, right?
Correct.
And you didn't buy the real estate, you bought the business, right?
Correct. No, I leased the real estate.
Okay. And that's where you've been running since that time, right?
Yes.
And you built a pretty good business there at one time, didn't you?
We've been blessed.
And you did so in part by the media advertising, right?
Correct. Yes sir. That we took off on that aspect.
In fact, you did a lot of it, didn't you, on social media?
Yes.
You really promoted your business, and that was your primary promotion, wasn't it?
I pushed hard on it. Yes sir.
Okay. And you got a lot of followers.
We got up to about 28,000 on the business page,
Okay.
which is nothing compared to some people. For a little restaurant, we were tickled over that.
And you got a little bit into politics, didn't you?
I did. COVID drove me there.
Well, you had some difference of opinion with the city leadership in North Myrtle Beach, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Me and the mayor and the city manager never saw eye to eye on anything.
And some of that had to do with some of the things that you were doing, right?
Correct. They always had an issue with stuff going on in the restaurant that wasn't legally an issue, wasn't actually a zoning. There was no actual issues. They just didn't like we were doing things, I guess.
And to be fair, you were critical about some of their decisions too on your social media platform, weren't you?
When they would come and do what I felt was unfair reign over us, we would make sure the public knew about it to help spread the word about what they were doing to small businesses that they did not like.
It'd be fair to say that you had beef with Mayor Hatley.
I believe Mayor Hatley had beef with me, and I just entertained it to defend myself.
Now, in this restaurant, let's talk about another one of these things that you decided to do and you've been criticized for it. You were friendly to law enforcement, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell us about that.
I've always been a big supporter of law enforcement. I think that they do a great job, and I don't think they get the appreciation that they deserve, and I think that gets worse every single year. I think it's a deteriorating issue for them, and it's not fair. So I just did little things where we eventually decided all law enforcement on duty in uniform eat for free. We did all first responders, so anyone in uniform on duty eats for free. If we did little things like if they got a call while they were there, we would do everything into a box and keep it in a hot box waiting, so when they got off their call, they could come pick up what they paid for and finish eating. And if they were on duty and wanted to meet their wife and kids or their girlfriend for a quick lunch so they could see them, then we would do the free meal for them, plus we would do 50% off for all the family.
And you made that known.
Yes, sir.
Now, looking back at the practical matter, did they really take a lot of advantage?
I'm sorry.
Did you have a lot of officers take advantage?
No, most people I spoke to felt bad doing it because it was they said it was just overly generous and they appreciated it, but they didn't want it. They would want it paid. And then we had some officers that would take us up on it and eat, but we never got swarmed every day or had a large turnout for that.
But it's pretty good advertising too, what? The public and state, that's what you do for first responders and law enforcement.
I think so, yes, sir.
And relative to the advertising, do you think it was a big cost?
No, I would have $2,000-3,000 a year in my cost on it. I mean, that's pretty small.
Now, let me pause here and ask you, at this incident scene, we're going to talk about it a little more later. Did you know any officer on that scene?
I did not know a single person there, no, sir.
Okay. And the North Myrtle Beach officers, of course, this wasn't in North Myrtle Beach jurisdiction, but it got to the point they weren't even allowed to come.
Come to
your restaurant.
Come to the restaurant? Yes, sir. No, everybody had to stop coming to the restaurant.
And you didn't tell them to stop, did you?
No, sir.
North Myrtle Beach told them this.
North Myrtle Beach did, yes, sir.
Now, let's talk about some of the spats, because I think Judge Inslee, I feel go with this because this is important to a little bit later testimony. You remember it being about the parade?
I do.
Tell me about the parade issue.
They canceled St. Patrick's Day is one of the most important kickoff days for the area of the restaurants in Main Street. We depend on that. That's everybody's down there's first big day, which recoups a lot of money from the winter months where we're at the bottom of our reserves for operating, and that puts us a good little kick in there. It's crucial that you have good St. Patrick's Day events. And North Myrtle Beach does an amazing job putting on one of the biggest ones. I mean, there'd be 35,000 people up and down the street. My restaurant alone, on average, during a St. Patrick's Day event, will have 3,000 customers in one day.
That's important coming off the dry season.
It's a relief and a blessing.
So they canceled it.
They canceled it, and they canceled it last minute for the most part. I was getting phone calls from business owners up and down the street who, some of them said that this year with everything going on, they weren't going to be able to make it till May and June, July where they get their money. I don't think the city saw it as a dire situation because I don't think the city cared to actually go speak to the people this was going to directly impact. I saw it as a dire situation, and I took it upon myself to organize our own St. Patrick's Day event on Main Street, North Myrtle Beach. And a golf cart parade, yes, sir.
And you got some love back from the city, didn't you?
Not originally. We went into City Hall. We had a meeting. I sat down with, I can't remember the lady who signs our business license, Sarah something, I believe, and then one other guy who's in charge of special events and stuff. We had a 2-hour meeting. And I showed him everything I wanted to do. I said, look, I'm gonna keep the golf carts off the main roads. This is where I wanted to start. I wanted to go by all these businesses, come by here and end here. Are there any issues? They looked over everything. They said, no, we're okay with this. We're good to go. This is okay.
You know what happened?
I posted it on Facebook. It blew up. Everyone was excited. Everyone was excited for the businesses on Main Street. And then people started praising Bowie's for doing it.
All right, what else were you doing during those COVID times that was community related? With respect to your restaurant, the dining.
I slowed down after that because remember it backfired. The city kind of dropped the hammer on us for that after the fact. So we had to change up our strategies. After people started accrediting that to, we also made T-shirts, and I think this is where the city got involved. The T-shirt said, St. Patrick's Day, Main Street, it's not a parade. Because they had put out a letter and they said, we have not approved a golf cart parade. This never was approved. They're doing this without permission. We had gotten permission. And then I posted the audio recording of that meeting where they approved it all. So they backed off a little bit because that was an embarrassing slap to them. And then we made T-shirts that said it's not a parade. And it was just backlash. That's where the backlash started constantly from the city. Anything I wanted to do, it was more from the city manager. And
He actually came to your location at times.
sometimes he damaged property at my restaurant.
How so?
We had tiki torches out front that had been there for years and had been okay for years. And then after that, he came out and he brought 6 or 7 city officials with him, and he was basically yelling at me about these tiki torches, and I didn't understand the issue, and we were trying to figure everything out. And I guess he felt like I wasn't grasping the liability of it. So he grabbed one of my tiki torches and pretended he was walking, and then just snapped it off the pillar, and snapped it and dropped it. Said, see, now I'm a civilian who's hit my head and I'm suing the city of North Myrtle Beach. And then he walked to the next one and started, and I spoke up and like, can you not break them? But he had already been it. So that one was like this. One was snapped and broken on the ground. We had a Christmas event for kids, and we put Christmas lights in a bush. He drove up in the parking lot. He got angry that we put Christmas lights in the bush. He said those were the city's bushes. I said,
behind your restaurant.
Behind my restaurant. And I said, no, these bushes aren't part of the property I lease. He told me to remove them, and I said, you have to show me that they're a city bush. He said, well, they're a liability. The kids are going to get electrocuted. And I said, Mr. Mahaney, this is my bush. This is my event. So he walked to one side. He grabbed the string lights, and he just started ripping all my lights out of my bushes. So we didn't have lights in the bushes for that event.
Ultimately, it wasn't on the city's property.
No, after it turned into a little bit of a bout, they realized those were bushes on our property.
Now, what else did you do during this COVID time with your restaurant? Number one, to give you some revenue. Number two, to help community.
I converted. I tried to stay within the difficult rules and find a way to still be able to produce income in a non-essential business. And we came up with a grocery store. So I would go with Cisco and I would negotiate to get items that were hard to find in the community at the time. Toilet paper, that was the big one. So we would lock in toilet paper, pallets of toilet paper. We'd lock in random meats, and it was just different things that they weren't getting in grocery stores. And then we opened up a grocery store in the restaurant and used the tables as the displays, and then we would allow 2 people in at once to come in and shop, buy what they need. We charged just a little, we charged a little over cost. We did not go anywhere near the normal margins we needed, and we operated that for a while.
So, during that time, you took your chairs out, didn't you?
The chairs were all stacked up in the back. It was just tables.
You weren't seating people in your building?
No, sir.
Okay. But at some point in that continuum, you started serving people outdoors, didn't you?
We did,
The
because
state allowed
the
it.
rules didn't specify we couldn't. They allowed fast food. They allowed pull up and all that kind of stuff. That fell within the rules. So I said, okay. So we converted the side parking lot into basically a Sonic. They pull up, place their order, we run the food out there to them. And we put some picnic tables out there because that was allowed as well, but they had to be spaced. We spaced them, we measured and did all that. So we had people who would walk down from resorts and sit at the picnic tables and eat takeout food. It had to be takeout.
And you didn't have wait staff to wait on them. After they gave them the food, it was takeout. They didn't go back and serve.
Yeah, no, we bagged everything up, everything within the rules. Put everything in takeout. It was takeout. Once they went outside, once it got taken outside to them and handed to them, they're on their own. They're not getting a server coming back asking if they needed refills or something like that.
So that went on for a while.
It did.
And that ultimately, that mode of doing business is where you ran into a real problem in the city. What do you explain?
We had a thunderstorm roll up one night. We had an 11 top. Oh, it's been years. I know one was 11 top. I think we had a 6 top, and I think we had a 4 top. The 11 top was
All outdoors, right?
All outdoors. The 11 top was almost all kids. The resort they were staying at was about 1.5 miles down the road. They had walked there. A thunderstorm started rolling up. It's lightning. It's thundering. It's raining. Kids are scared. The food's just ruined. What we did, instead of telling them, sorry, we can't help you, we brought them inside of the restaurant and put some chairs out and allowed them to sit at the tables until the storm passed so they could walk back.
With their wet, soggy food.
We tried to replace some of it, but it was all pretty much.
But you didn't serve them in there, did you?
No, sir.
Okay, no wait staff served you.
No, sir. We didn't have any on the schedule.
And that was one group, right?
Well, there was three tables.
Okay, but it was 11 top, right?
Yes.
So it took 3 tables.
No, there was an 11 top, I think a 6 top, and like either a 4 or 2 top. There was a group of people. They had taken up all the seats outside and we moved them in.
Okay. So what happened?
Officer shows up, cites me for violating the governor's order, says that I'm serving people inside my restaurant, shuts me down, tries to shut me down, or he does shut me down that night, I think. And I didn't think much of it until I realized that the city was going to make that a very, very big deal.
To go after your business license, right?
That was the threats being sent, yes.
So you got charged.
I got charged, yes, sir.
And you got prosecuted.
Yes, sir.
And we had to try that case, didn't we?
We did.
And Mayor Hatton was a witness in it, wasn't she?
She was.
And she got on the stand and I cross-examined her.
Yes, you did.
It would be fair to say that did not show her in the best light.
No, she lied multiple times on the stand, and I think she thought that she was going to get away with it, but she brought in, we were able to bring in the thing and show that she was lying.
So the mayor, do you recall from that evidence that the mayor actually was on the telephone with the officer directing the ticket?
Correct.
Directing, not the police chief, but the mayor.
Telling him what he needed to do.
And that officer told the truth about that, didn't he?
He did. I respect that guy so much. I didn't know him, but he wasn't going to let that just go, because he felt that was wrong, and he spoke up.
So ultimately, the jury came back in your favor, right?
It did, actually. One of them stopped me in the parking lot and said after they watched the mayor sit on that stand and lie, it was unanimous. Said no one in there questioned it.
And it was unanimous quick, too.
Yes, several minutes.
Now, let's be honest. You didn't leave that alone, did you?
No. I knew now the mayor lies. That this is.
I'm not talking about that. You actually told your story on your social media, didn't you?
Yes, we explained everything that happened, how it happened, and how it ended.
And that actually got a lot of celebrity for you, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some of our posts were hitting 100,000 views. It blew up, and I mean, it went all up and down the East Coast.
And that probably was the final nail in the coffin between your relationship with you and the mayor.
Yeah.
We'll go back to that. How many employees do you, let me take you back before this event happened in 23. How many employees were you running? You got out of code, you got cranked up again. How many employees were you running?
It depended on the time of year. In our slow months, I'd run anywhere from maybe 28 to 35 people. In our busiest seasons, prime, middle of July, we're probably running 80 to 100 people.
Okay. And they're all employed by your business, right?
Correct, yes, sir.
And they all take paychecks on that.
Yes, sir.
And I don't want you to get into details, but some of your servers make pretty good money, don't they?
Yes, sir. We in our busier it's been a little slower the past 2 years, but our busiest years, we had some servers that were doing very well for themselves.
So, let's talk about Bradley Williams for a minute. He's one of your friends from tech school, right?
Yes, sir.
How would you characterize your circle of friends? Big or small?
I've always kept a very small circle.
But he's in it, right?
He's in.
And he's been in it since tech school, right?
Yes, sir.
And he was in it before he married, right? He
Sorry.
was in it before he married, right?
Yes, sir.
He was in it before he had his children, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, as those relationships grown, you become involved in that circle with his wife and his children, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, you fair to say he's one of your closest friends, right?
He's my brother.
Well, let's talk for a minute about some of your activities, your hobbies. I don't want you to tell us just who you are, because I mean, he's not from here. He hasn't seen all this media. He doesn't know about the social media. I want you to tell him who you are. What do you like to do when you're not working?
I love being outside. I love road trips, going places. Traveling's fun. We do the road trips the right way. We know what state we're going to, and that's the only plan we make. We just get in the truck and go and figure out as we go. It's a blast. And then hunting, fishing, four-wheelers, and then in 23, my father and I purchased a farm because the beach just doesn't offer a lot of outdoor stuff. So we bought a farm about 30 minutes from the farm.
You live in a condo, right?
I live in a condo, yes sir, in North Myrtle.
It's hard to have outdoor stuff in a condo.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. People look at you weird. So we started doing the farm, and the farm just met all of our needs. We could hunt there, we could ride on trails there, we could fish there, we could just sit outside and listen to the birds. So that's where I started to spend a lot of my time.
You dug a pond out there, right?
Yeah, got fish.
And it's a blueberry farm, right?
It is a blueberry farm. We have 2 orchards. We have about 1,300 blueberry bushes.
It's probably kind of like that first restaurant in terms of how much money it makes.
Yeah, farms don't make money. I just lose money on the farm.
It's a hobby.
It's a hobby.
Now, out there, you've put in some recreational things like the trails you talked about.
Yes, sir.
You build a barn or
We got a playground for kids. We got a lot of trails they can do. We got the blueberry fields for them to come do U-pick. We got kayaks for the pond. So we're slowly expanding a little bit.
You're actually trying to bring kids out there, right?
We actually have, we host the Cubbery once a year, and they'll bring out anywhere from 300 to 400 Cub Scouts, and they camp. We have some little campgrounds, and they camp, and they host their yearly, where all the Cub Scout, I don't know what you call them, tribes, get together, dens. All the dens get together and do their yearly thing, awards and stuff like that.
But you had other events out there too, where you had the kids out and you brought.
Yeah, we do an Easter event. We did a Christmas event with Christmas trails lit up, the Easter egg hunts. We did a Halloween where we were watching scary movies outside on the screen and pumpkin carving.
So you're moving your outdoor stuff there, right?
Yes, everything's going that way.
But you also had events where you brought first responders out, didn't you? Fire trucks.
Yeah, we had a touch truck where they brought out their trucks, police cars. They brought out their rescue boat that like drives on land and then goes in the water. They brought one of those out.
I mean, this is all for the kids, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, September 2023 happened. They don't come anymore, do they? The police.
No, they won't. They won't come back out there.
Even for the kids.
No. The sheriffs agreed once for the Cub Scouts. Boyd County declined.
Okay. Well, if you can remember how long he owned this farm before September 2023, which is day.
I don't know the exact date. I think it was either several weeks or no. We got the barn built, so it would have been several months, a couple months, somewhere in there, I believe.
Okay. And so is this farm where you were headed, planning to go to on that afternoon?
Yes, sir.
And what specifically were you planning as you were headed there?
We were going on Saturday because we were going to take stuff to the farm for a cookout that we were going to have Sunday to celebrate the barn being built. We had some wicker, there was no furniture, so I got the wicker furniture off my back porch at the condo, put all the couch cushions inside the truck. Then we went, and the barn was hot as could be because it was still hot that time of year. So I knew Mom was going to be out there, and I think Randy might have been coming, so I knew we needed a fan, so we stopped at Tractor Supply to go buy some fans.
So your truck, did you fill your truck up that day as you're heading to the farm?
The truck was loaded down.
Okay. Tell the judge what kind of stuff was in it. You told him about the couches and the fan.
Yeah.
After he was done,
We
but
had
other stuff.
couch cushions. We had stuff that was going. I don't remember what all was in all the cardboard boxes. Some were fans. I don't remember what was in the others. Underneath that, I had a deck system with the drawers. I don't know if you've seen those before. Those had stuff that we were out there for tannerite to shoot and blow up. On the trailer was the wicker furniture. And each one of them had one little strap over them. Inside the truck, for the best I can remember, we had the couch cushions. I had upper and a lower, and I had a medical kit that I was going to put out there at the barn because it was one of those big extensive ones, and I figured the farm was the best place for that.
Let me back up to this upper and lower. Was that a functional weapon?
No, it was not.
Explain that.
The upper, this was a project gun that I've been working on. The upper part of the bolt assembly was not put into it. The lower, I tried to put a trigger in the lower, but I didn't do it right. So Bradley and I talked about doing it, and that's going to come up later because in one of the phone calls, I asked Bradley, can't we just tell him that we were going to do the trigger on the lower? The upper there was a suppressor as well. It was
Now about that suppressor, are you licensed for the suppressor?
I am. It's an NFA item. I cannot collect it from the store I bought it at until they have the tax stamps and everything's official. It's mine. The concern about the upper and lower, and the reason you don't hear me in these phone calls about the upper and lower is because I didn't want the confusion of it being an assembled SBR when I had not completed the project gun and done the paperwork. Since I've gotten all those pieces back from the ATF, it has been sent in, it has been reviewed by the ATF, and it is an approved SBR. It's not the only one I've got. I've always done the process, and this might be my second SBR, and I think I've got 3 suppressors now. I've always done it the right way. But at that time, we were still assembling. I put the trigger in wrong. It didn't work. The lower is just a firearm. It's considered a firearm. But it had a stock on it because I used it on a full-length upper before I decided to use it for this project that we were going to use it for, where the upper was not a full-length barrel. And what you're going to hear in one of the phone calls at the end of the 911 call, you're going to hear me tell Bradley to go take the stock off the SBR. What I mean is that lower that's back there, the project we're trying to make an SBR with, take the stock off, because I did not want everybody to show up and then that be asserted that that's what we were transporting. It wasn't. I was trying to avoid that problem, and all we ended up doing is to the plaintiff, they're going to make that a problem.
Don't worry about them. Let's worry about you and this judge. On that day, it was a paperweight, wasn't it?
It was a paperweight. It was not a functional weapon.
Okay. But the police did take it when they took your truck.
They did. They took the upper, the suppressor, and the lower.
Okay, and it's going to be in some of these inventory documents, isn't it?
Correct.
And they took some ammunition you had in the airport, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you have other needs for ammunition, don't you, on your farm?
Yeah, we have a shooting range. At that time, it hadn't been completed, but we had been working on it, and we go out there and we plank and we shoot, and that's what we do. We enjoy going out to the farm and shooting.
And sometimes you shoot at targets that are paper.
We have paper targets, we have metal targets, we have silhouette targets, we have the metal silhouette targets that show it's a square with that. We like metal targets over paper targets because they dong when you hit them. So we prefer metal targets. We have round targets. Then we had a big dummy out there. We just have all kinds. I mean, we got cans. Paint. We shoot our old paint cans. It's just we got a variety of every kind of target.
That's a social event for you.
Yeah,
You invite people out to shoot on a weekend day or something, don't you?
I do. So,
Okay. So this assault rifle, this upper, this lower, this suppressor on it, has anything to do whatsoever with September 9th, 2023, the interaction with the spy?
it had absolutely nothing to do. It was useless. It was inaccessible because it was buried in the back seat under couch cushions. I physically could not have reached it if I wanted to, and if I had pulled it out, it would have been just, I would have had to have thrown it.
And it was a paperweight.
It's a paperweight.
But now, there was a phone call somewhere in all these buried phone calls, we're going to talk about them, where you make reference to having an AR and you couldn't get to it or something, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't have done you any good to get to it, would it?
No. I mean, I was telling somebody that there was that back there, but I couldn't get to it.
If you got to it, it wouldn't help you, would it?
I never tried to get to it. Didn't have time to get to it, didn't.
But if you got to it, it wouldn't help you, would it?
No.
And you knew that it was a paperweight.
It was inoperable.
And as a practical matter, you didn't have time, did you?
No, sir.
Judge, is it possible for him to ask a question rather than leave? I don't want, because I'm not really going to talk about this stuff, so I'm trying to get it speed through, but if he would ask questions, it would be better.
I respect the objection, and I'm just trying to speed this up, but I'll be happy to rephrase.
Sure, do that, and keep rolling.
Sorry.
So,
What else you
just
remember being in
question.
that truck?
Sir?
What else you remember being in that truck? It might look military-like, combative-like.
I did not review the inventory list when I got up there, and I should have. I don't remember everything that was in there. I know there was a tablet, there was a cell phone that was not working. It was an old phone. I'd had it from when I turned my other phone, when I turned that phone off and got a new phone.
You had some airsofts. I was ready to ask you about that. What were they?
Airsoft rifles.
No, some kind of airsoft canister or something. You tell me.
Oh, yeah, I had, they're for airsoft. Sometimes we play around with airsoft, and sometimes we just enjoy throwing these things. They're mock flashbangs, and you throw them, and they pop. They're firework. That's basically what they are.
That's in my nose in the truck.
Yes.
You see your phone.
And then I also had a few CS canisters that you pop the top, and you can throw those, and they put CSS up.
What is CS?
I don't know what CS stands for. It's
Smoke?
It's like tear gas type thing.
But did you have that stuff for any reason other than entertainment and fun?
No, it was just to have it and throw it at the farm and see what it did.
Let's talk about medical stuff. Did you have a medical kit?
We did. We had a very extensive bag in there, trolley bag,
And where was it headed?
to the farm to go in the barn.
Okay. So, I want to, at this juncture, shift gears to talk about some phone calls. Now, you had broken up with your ex-fiance, right?
Yes,
Okay.
in June-ish.
Who ended that relationship? You or her?
I did.
Okay. And I'm gonna try not to get too far into those reasons, okay? But, at the time, she was pregnant, right?
She was pregnant.
Okay.
And I just want to say, we're working really hard on maintaining a co-parent situation for our son's sake. And stuff that was given to the plaintiffs during the custody battle by her is going to be used now. It's going to put me in a very bad position where I'm going to have to defend myself against it. I don't want to, but I've got to defend myself against it because we finally have gotten to a point where we can co-parent, and my son is who benefits from that.
Well, let me break that down a little bit now, because a lot of parents get divorced and a lot of parents have to co-parent separately apart. But what difference is happening with you? After your child was born, did you see him?
I was only allowed to sit on her couch and hold him while her and her mother watched me for 3 hours, 3 times a week, back to back to back. I had to drive from the beach there, and that was the only access I was given to her.
Did you take your son, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you take him out for a stroll down the road?
I asked, after doing this for a few weeks, I asked her if I could just put him in a stroller and me and him go for a walk, and I couldn't even do that.
So your only connection with your son during those weeks was sitting in your ex's house with her and her mother?
Correct. And I had to ask permission to bring family members, and they could pick. They had the right to pick. They dictated who couldn't come see Hunter.
Let me ask you, and again, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but were your ex and her mother trying to make you do anything?
Once I decided this is not the way things need to be, I started to put the foot down some and assert that I'm going to have rights to my child. I have a right to have rights to my child, and it sparked a war. She had no intentions of giving me my rights to my child. She wanted full control, and I tried to work with her, tried to keep this away from going to court and having to get attorneys. And ultimately, she just cut me off and would not communicate with me anymore. So the only information I could get on my child was through her mother at her mother's mercy. She picked and chose what I needed to know, when I needed to know it. The only reason I even got an ultrasound picture of it being a boy was because her little sister snuck it to me. I found out it was a boy because she texted me and said, just figured you'd want to know it's a boy. I wasn't given a say in the name, anything.
Were you allowed to come to the nursery as husband?
I had to sit out in the waiting room. I was not allowed to be in the delivery room, which I'm not going to beat her up on that. That is a woman's choice. It's not my place. So I wasn't there for delivery. I got to go in after. I held him for a few minutes, and then she said she needed to feed, so I got up and I left. And then I would sit outside of the room every day while she was in the hospital, because she stayed for, I don't know the exact days. I sat outside, and I had to sit there until they came and told me I could come see him for a little bit. And I watched her family go in and out, in and out, in and out, preacher, in and out. And I just waited, and then her mom would come get me and say, you can come see him for a minute. I'd get to hold him. I'd sit with him for 15, 20 minutes. They tell me he has to eat, and I'd go back to the waiting room, and I'd sit in the waiting room, and I'd do that all day for several days. I slept in the hotel right down the road from the hospital.
This kind of bizarre conduct, not having access, it continued for months.
yeah, it was very, very, very hard.
And let's go ahead and put some of it out there. Even before the child was born, there was a period of time when it was suggested you might not even be your child.
It was. There have been rumors and stuff like that, but that's neither here or there. I never bought into that.
Well, let me ask you this. Was there a plan to have a child even before you got married? That you know about?
I believe between her mother and her, yes.
But not between you, though.
I wanted a child too.
But you didn't know about her and the mother's plan.
Not necessarily.
Okay. Recordings. What were you trying to record?
The reason I had this recorded on my phone, Your Honor, is because at the point the silent treatment started and we need to back up because we had to explain how we got to this point.
Please?
There was no way she was going to work with me on coming up with a plan on how to do things. So I volunteered the idea that the grandparents meet. That could be less confrontation. Go to a restaurant, y'all sit down, and we figure out what are we going to do about this baby. My mom and dad went. Her mother went. Her mother told my mom and dad that her husband, Chuck, didn't need to be there. She'd handle it. Mom had a list of questions and things that basically everything I needed to know, she took and questioned for him. And her mother had a list of, I'm gonna call them demands. And that was a rough meeting for my parents, I think. And I'm not gonna go into all that because I wasn't there. But the list got brought back to me, and it was. I knew then I had to get an attorney. There was no option after reading things on that list. I had to get an attorney, and I wanted to be clear in this time period, from that decision right there to when I first tried to just we got a kid, we got to make this work, we got to figure this out. I mean, I was having a hard time. Who wouldn't? I don't know any man who wants to be a father who would not be hurt by this situation, because my son's got to grow up in this situation, and it's hard. So, I was hurting. It sucked. I was sad. And they take sad and they say, oh, depression, situational depression. I was sad. But we got through that. We got to the point, and then I got tired of being sad. I got tired of being told what I can and can't do. I just had to get an attorney, and that's when I retained an attorney. I went in there, I showed her that list. She about fell out of her chair when she saw that list and the things that were written on it. And I think she took it personal at that point, because she said, this is wrong, and this is not what your life's going to be, and this is not going to be your son's experience with you, I promise.
And this was well in advance of September 2023.
Right. Yeah, that's why I said we had to go back, because that's 40 footwork.
All right, so the recordings. You were telling us about the recordings.
I had to have the recordings because now we were past that point. We were where the silent treatment. She wasn't communicating with me. The only information I could get about my child was through her mother. And when I would talk to her mother, things were being said to me by her mom, her brother, her sister, her grandmother, her dad, about the situation and how she did me and how she was being, that I could not fathom. And I knew family courts are hard. And I knew that if I did not have a way to show a judge this, a judge would never believe me. So I put a recorder on my phone, and I started recording these phone calls. And
well, let me stop you there now. How'd you put a recorder on your phone?
I went to Play Store on Google and typed in phone recorder app. Went with the highest ranked one that was free, and that's what I downloaded onto my phone.
And did it record some calls or did it record all calls?
It records every call made, even if you hang up, if you dial and then hang up, it records everything.
And you had this on your phone for a while, didn't you? Prior to September 9th.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so what you were recording, you were trying to record, was these interactions with an ex and her family about the child, right?
Yes, sir. We ended up with nearly 4 hours of those recordings, and I'm very thankful we got them.
Ultimately, they helped you in the parent court case for you.
I think it was finally made clear of vaguely what was in there, and it helped me with mediation, yes.
And y'all got it resolved.
We did, and that was...
And it's actually been pretty good, hasn't it?
Things have gotten better and better and better, and...
In fact, a couple of weeks ago...
We did our first... It was important to me that we're not in a race to do something big the first time with the kid. He needs both his parents. And I knew Disney was going to be a big one, so I thought, hey, I talked to her, I said, I want to go to Disney. I don't want this to be a race where it's, oh, she did it before. That's not the experience our child needs. So I said, let's plan a Disney trip and let's do a co-parent trip and see if we can actually function and do that. So we went to the mountains the other week. Terrible weekend to go because I ended up getting snowed.
Let me stop you now. Y'all went together to the mountains.
We did.
But that was not the first time you planned it, right?
No, sir.
Please tell the judge what you did.
Wait, the first time I planned what?
To go to the mountains. It wasn't with your ex, was it?
No. I had him that weekend, and I was going to take him, and I told her that the Disney had already been talked about. She understood that where I stood, she agreed with me, she felt the same way. So the Disney thing, and that was an anxious thing, and going to Disney for a week with someone that you don't know how y'all going to be. I told her 3 weeks prior to going to the mountains that I was going to take Hunter to snow tube in the mountains on my weekend coming up. She was really upset, not at me. She just was bummed that she was going to miss out on him getting to experience that. So I said, well, if I postpone the trip, Laura said, why don't you go? I have to work. What if I postpone it till you can go? She told me a weekend it would work, so then I moved the trip that I was going to do with him to that weekend so that she wasn't left out, and it was the perfect opportunity for us to test a co-parent trip. So I got that jumbled up.
Well, let me just put it out there. Is this lawsuit and the plaintiff's attorney's interaction with your ex been a problem with that co-parenting relationship?
It was a problem all through mediation, and it was a problem after mediation. She told me that Mark Tinsley and Jennifer Foley directly reached out to her, and that they told her they would assist her with her custody battle against me.
But it's a two-way street. She told them
she was on board. She was ready to help.
It's a two-way street. She wanted you in jail, didn't
she? She told Mr. Tinsley I need him in prison. And then she asked Mr. Tinsley, I heard that he gets a shot at immunity. I'm paraphrasing, but is there any chance he's going to get immunity? And Mr. Tinsley said, not a snowball's chance.
And we got these conversations from a subpoena to her, right?
Right. We didn't get everything. They didn't provide everything. They kept stuff. They cut conversations off. They did not send nearly what should have been sent.
When I sent the subpoena to her.
Yes, sir.
Who jumped in to represent her?
Mark Tinsley jumped right in.
And he provided incomplete response. Is that fair?
Very incomplete.
So, and you know she's on the witness list for this case, don't you?
Yes, I do. That's the only reason that I'm having to bring all this in here to make sure the other side's told before he puts her up on this stand.
And I haven't been able to talk to her, have I?
No, on the trip, Thursday before the trip, we had a couple conversations about court coming up. She made it clear to me that we were in a good place. She did not want to be involved with this. She She said she doesn't know what to do to not be, and she started asking me, what do I do? And I made it very clear multiple times, I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you what to do. You need to talk to your attorney. Well, do I call Mark? I can't tell you what to do. Then she asked, can I talk to Ken? Or I asked her, you can talk to Ken too. She said, okay, I'll do that. I said, okay, but you have to confirm.
Hold on, you asked Ken, didn't you?
I asked Ken. Ken told me what the rules were.
Conversation, what did you tell him?
You have to confirm with Ken Moss that you are not represented by Mark Tinsley. And I said it flat out, we're not going to break rules here. So if you want to talk to Ken, you have to confirm that you're not represented by Mark Tinsley. She was okay with that. The next day we left for our trip. We talked about it again on the way down there. She expressed how she was stressed out. I expressed how I don't want this to all end up in this courtroom. It didn't need to be here. We got through the trip, got back, didn't say anything about it the next day. And then the next day I said, hey, will you reach out to Ken today just so we can get that ball? Sorry.
Ken?
Ken Moss, Mr. Moss.
So,
I'm sorry.
so the mother may talk to Ken sometime.
Sometime.
Okay, I want to make sure it's not another Ken.
Ultimately, she did.
She did not. She said, well, after the trip was over, she said, well, I can't confirm whether Mark is or isn't my attorney. And I said, you told me that you didn't sign papers with Mark Tinsley, and you told me that you did not.
Didn't talk to Ken.
Yeah,
But the point is, she didn't talk.
correct.
Judge, there's a whole lot of this.
No kidding.
This client's really, I mean, and you've only heard the surface.
This is my child.
And I really don't want to get into this, but if they put this X on the witness stand, I would like to reserve the right.
I have fought these. I have fought them to make this where this doesn't come in here.
Let's take a break.
I wasn't on it.
I'm going to take a break, let him compose himself. It's noon, lunch.
Right?
Let's take a break till, not a bigger crowd here was during the week, 1:15. And maybe if everybody's not back, we'll delay it a little bit. Let's shoot for 1:15. Yeah, I remind you, you're under oath. You can't talk about your testimony during the break. For instance, you can't go say, how am I doing, or how do I answer this question. You are not to communicate about your testimony with anybody. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to ask you that when you come back.
Yes, sir.
All right, see you in a little bit.